was this planned for us? Were we planning to have 2 and a 2? I was not ready to say goodbye to just being us 3. I want to be torn in 2 different people so that I can see to him and I can see to her. But I had to realize I couldn't do it.
She needed to be there for her sake as a mom.
As crazy as what it sounds, I'm sure a mom could understand that recharged me more than sleep would have.
We allowed, I think, our emotional desire to give them as much as possible, and particularly in love, that we took away some of that.
We understood that he was going to eventually warm up and come and say hi or give her a kiss or give her a hug, but we always gave him the opportunity. That has taught us that our little ones are supposed to be independent in regulating a system that they don't even have. Welcome to the Munch Corner, everyone. We are your hosts, Savannah, and this is my wonderful husband, Omar.
And
if it's your first time, don't go anywhere.
No, stay with us. We actually have a very special episode today.
This is near and dear to our hearts because it is more from a personal level for us. If you did not know, we have 2 under 2.
Yes, we do.
It's so much fun.
I like the way that rhymes. It does feel a little differently when we live it, though.
Yes, we have the realities of it, and then you get very much a fantasized version of what 2 under 2
which is good
looks
because
like.
then we start off with that part, and then we get back to the reality of it.
Yes. So if you would like to find out, at least in our case, not everyone is the same. We have a 21-month-old and we have an almost 7-month-old. So they are 14 months apart.
That's a pretty tight group. And there's a lot of things that come with it. And we have some long-term hopes that we have with both of them as well, which is expectation will be very close. But before we get into anything, Savannah's very casual today. I just want to point that out.
Casual and comfy, as we should be.
Comfy is really good, so we're doing that today. And we are surrounded by some good coffee today. So this is thanks to our friends at Waterbean.
Oh, this is good coffee from North Carolina.
North Carolina, if you ever go over there, go find yourself a nice Waterbean over there. They're actually pretty darn good. So
we'd like to cover with everyone that after we basically go through our personal experience, and of course we're still living it, so we're going to be learning so much more. We'll be covering different stages, everything from pre-pregnancy to where we are to date. But after we cover the entire timeline, Omar and I have put in 3 personal questions we're going to be asking each other at the end that we don't know.
That's right. So Savannah doesn't know the questions we're going to ask her.
You don't know the ones I'm going to ask you.
And I love teasing her. So I'll put that out there. And so it'll be kind of a fun one.
That's not a good sign.
That's a very good sign.
Okay. Yeah. I know what I'm in for then. And then we each have a question we're going to be asking each other relating to what advice we'd give
to other parents. Yeah.
So stay to the end because
stay to the end.
You might have questions of your own that we'll answer throughout this.
We are one community. In this case, we are a parent community for the moment.
Yes.
Even though we are a community with other things as well. So this is going to be a fun one to get started with. Plus, it's also great to just sort of share some of these tremendous experiences that we're going to have.
It is. Becoming parents is such a big switch in your life. And something we've spoken about before is you really don't understand what it entails until it happens. It's really like you're figuring it out as you go along. And I guess this puts us at, we're going to start off with, was this planned for us? Were we planning to have 2 and a 2?
And what's the answer to that question?
We are going to be saying yes, because when you have a wonderful 3-month-old little boy staring at you, being a little goofy and giving you baby fever, we thought, you know what? We've always wanted them close in age. Let's just start now. So that resulted in...
But let's give a little bit of background to this.
Yes.
So you have siblings.
I do have siblings.
And how close are you in age to your siblings?
Very far. So my oldest sibling is 5 years older than me, and I have 2 brothers, so I'm the middle child of 3. And my younger brother is 8 years younger than me. So I always felt this huge gap between us, just emotionally and physically growing up. And I knew for Omar and I would love... Again, relationships are going to develop how they're going to develop. But by giving them the opportunity of growing up so close in age was my absolute dream for them. I don't know that we ever realized how close in age we wanted them to be until you're in
No,
it.
that's very true.
And you're
So
like, well, he's 3 months. Did we want 202 or are we going to wait a little bit longer? And this is actually something we never spoke about before our first was born.
that's very true. It
I
was
think we
not.
just said we want them close, and that's kind of where we left it.
Well, I think we understood in general terms what we wanted to be as parents.
Yes,
And
but then there
then
comes a time after the first is born, you realize, okay, so when are we actually going to start trying?
you do come up with that, and then of
Yes.
course you're transitioning away from
I'm
being
still
pregnant.
recovering at
You're
that
recovering
point.
from-
I'm
from-
so freshly postpartum when we made the decision. And yes, we found out 5 months postpartum that we were pregnant. But your age difference with your sister
So
is closer.
yeah, so mine is a year and 9 months. So
Yes.
we were very close in age relatively, but I will tell you from my experience, and I think Savannah can share this as well. As much as we have this wish for Ryland and Aurelia to really be very close together, and this is our hope, right? You never know, because I mean, your
You know.
siblings are going to be, they're each individual little people, and eventually they turn into that. My sister and I couldn't be more different, in so many ways. It didn't change how much we loved each other. And then the immense amount of time we spent together growing up, because we traveled many places in the world, and we lived in many places in the world. So we were each other's little community, if you want to think about it, outside of our parents. And
Companions.
and we were each other's companions in many ways when there were no other companions. And so we developed a very close interaction, even though we were very different in many ways.
And this is where, even though Omar and I are making the decision that we've had the kids close in age, they will grow into their own people and decide whether or not they're going to stay close. And we were very fortunate enough to have found out we were pregnant with our second, with the 5 month postpartum mark. And this started a huge transition for us, because you think about the first time you fell pregnant and found out you're pregnant with our son, our firstborn. And I don't think mentally and psychologically and all those components together, I realized what a toll it was going to take on me to be pregnant while taking care of a baby.
There's also other things that we also started noticing. Time was very different. With Ryland, we experienced each stage of the pregnancy, I want to say, in very great detail. And the reason for that, obviously,
Because
he's our
it's the
first.
and you're learning.
But it wasn't just that. It was the idea that we experienced the first ultrasound. We experienced
Yes.
each step coming through. I mean, even your pregnancy experience, which was different between both of them, was also something we were very zoomed in on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do have a child
human
that's
to take care of,
a human to take care of, and then you have a second child on your way, all of a sudden there's this timeline that seems to have been a lot slower with his, that seems to have reached like fast forward very quickly
Can
between
I give you
different
an
things.
analogy that
Sure.
I listened to a few podcasts, and this is not my own analogy, but you only get one pregnancy. I'll tell you why. You get that one pregnancy of really being laid back and taken care of, princess treatment with the first baby. And then you really just grow the rest of the babies. Because after that, you really are just, yes, you're growing a whole human, but you don't get that first class treatment that you did with the first pregnancy.
So imagine this. This is when we were both chuckling at this, and this is not what we're planning, but we'll just throw it out there. So on our flight back from North Carolina, we ended up having directly behind us a family. So it was a family of 6 kids.
And she was pregnant with
and
the
she was
seventh.
pregnant with the 7th.
Yes.
Right. And so all these kids were not like, I think a couple of them were probably in their teens, but they went ranging.
I don't think any of them were in their teens. All of them were 10 and under. No, all of them were 10 and under.
So, but clearly I was interested in I was managing Ryland basically.
And I had our daughter.
And Savannah had Aurelia, but we were really sitting down, and I was just listening because they were directly behind me, trying to figure out how, particularly Dad, because he was on the side that I was on the plane,
how he was managing.
How he's managing, basically.
I hope you took notes.
It was a very interesting. He was probably one of the calmest people. I would say that.
I would agree.
And I could see him shifting focus and then having a direct conversation and then picking up on the next conversation with the next child and moving back and
How do you
answering
divide your
questions.
time when you have 6 kids?
We looked at that and we said, oh my gosh, the juggling act. Can you imagine now the pregnancy she's having when you've
With
got six
yes.
with six siblings that are just basically
Anyway,
out
we're
there
not
doing
going
their
to
own
jump
thing?
the gun, but we found that very humorous.
It did,
being
yes.
Just having 2 kids. So being pregnant, I would say I've at least been very grateful that my pregnancies were very normal, nothing too
Yes, that's
extreme
very true.
outside of medication for nausea. But really came the time where I had to start learning to pull the brakes for myself, because with pregnancy hormones, again, on top of being freshly postpartum, I have a little less patience. And I felt very guilty about that because, you know, I want to give everything to my son, but at the same time, there's so much being taken out from me having, to grow another baby, but I want to be so present with him too. Because I mean, I stayed home with him, so I got to really soak up time with him. And there were some days that was just really hard. You don't get to sleep in. You're on his routine. You're on a completely different life schedule than what I was used to before. And that really only sinks in once you are pregnant and you do have a baby to take care of, because you can imagine it to an extent, but you don't get to pick how many times a night you're either gonna wake up or you're not gonna wake up.
So it also explain to the audience in the context of time, right? I mean, so your first trimester, second, and third
Everything
are also very
felt
different.
like in its own blissful stage of your first pregnancy, it feels like it's its own beautiful phase and slow thing to take in. Then comes the second pregnancy, and it's like, oh, well, I'm already in the second trimester. Hold on. Time goes like this because that human you're taking care of becomes the sole priority of absolutely everything. And you take the backstage because, yes, you're still growing a human, but the current human that's not being grown right now needs to be
Is
seen.
still growing, but
Is still growing.
outside.
Yes.
And so his developmental part was a huge piece of the 2 under 2.
Yes.
I think I've heard before, and don't take this for any real value in terms of what's the best option. Savannah's case, a large number of years between siblings. My case, relatively short, but not extraordinarily short. I've heard parents come back and say 2 years is optimal, or even 3 years is optimal. And the reason they say that is
There's
because
no optimal.
and I think that's the right answer is that at least from their perspective, there was a developmental pathway that was already milestones being reached with the first one before the second would come in to introduce themselves into the
Yes,
equation.
I've heard some people say, I only want another baby once this one's out of diapers.
Right, that's
So
another good example.
there is no perfect answer. It's all up to you on at what point do you want to then think about trying, or if you're pregnant already, there's like no perfect timeline that you could possibly think
I,
of, because in the end of the day, it's about how you parent.
and you have to look at your own circumstances. I mean, for sure.
Of course. I mean, there's so many other factors at play rather than just looking at age gaps solely. And, it's for us, it felt right, and it still is right. It's absolute chaos right now.
What?
Yeah.
Is it really?
No, I'm not tired. It's a
Is that the word you want to use? I'd like to use a different word.
Exhausted.
Might be a little beyond tired. So
sleep deprived.
Yeah, sleep deprived is a really good way of putting it.
So as a mom, I felt a lot of guilt. Again, to another mom, if you are pregnant, whether this is your second, third, fourth pregnancy, and you have a little one to take care of, I understand the guilt that you're going through, just because you want to give your 100% all to your baby and your child that you're taking care of. And sometimes you don't feel like you can do that when you're running on 40% of energy.
Well, I mean, Savannah literally was on fumes. So, I mean, with the pregnancy and the growth, she progressively became more tired from first, second to third trimester. I think the original thought about the second trimester is like your burst in energy, right? It's probably
And you do get
your
that.
glowing part of a pregnancy, and then your third one, you're beginning to feel the weight of the pregnancy, not literally, but also, I guess it is literal too.
Yes, I mean, you do get it just because by the time the first trimester is done, most of the time the hard part of nausea is over, for the most part, unless you're taking medication or if nausea has gone throughout. But you just get used to being pregnant again. At least I can say it in my terms, is you just get used to, okay, we're doing this again. And by the time 13, 14 weeks comes along, it's like muscle memory for your body. And the changes the second time around were physically. I was already not back to my pre-pregnancy weight, which I don't expect I necessarily ever will be. But then you start going through now, oh my gosh, I never even got used to who I was postpartum after my first one. And now I've already jumped into a second pregnancy. And this now leads into, where I am now afterwards.
Well, I mean, and your journey is continuing. I think with Savannah, and I would say this again, not having gone through it, I'm not going to speak from that experience, but Savannah's transformation from being self and woman self to being mom and woman was extraordinary. I mean, it was beautiful to watch, but it did come with its challenges. I mean, because the transformation in her body through the pregnancy, I mean, there's no way you're going to go through that entire experience without a transformation. And every woman's going to be a little bit different in how that happens. But I think one of the things that I did notice is Savannah's mindset was very driven to being the best mom possible. She was also trying to figure out how she could balance in her mind with her emotions, basically having Aurelia become who she was. I mean, basically in womb. And over a period of time, there's this thing back and forth. So for me being on the outside, so this is kind of sort of
It's nice to
watching it,
hear.
I am trying to figure out, it was a lot, I'll put it this way, for all the guys out there, it was a lot easier during the first pregnancy, as much as I didn't think it was, right? But it was a lot easier. And the reason for that is because
You're not doing anything.
well, it's not so much that. It was,
You're present for me.
I was present for her, but it was also trying to anticipate where she was emotionally and me intellectually understanding this, right? So understanding that she is going to go through hormonal cycles. I think I like the analogy. The best thing was a friend of ours basically said, yeah, it's like going through puberty for a girl, but except doing it in 9 months. I mean, so you don't have years to do this. It's all occurring within a very short period of time. So there's so many ups and downs. And those manifested themselves in sometimes really fun ways, like she had a craving for something, right? So the foods.
And then now you get to do something and help me get
and I was trying to help her, and I was focused towards that. But when you have a child that's growing, also, essentially Ryland, and your role has now changed because now she is able to do, it's a different role. She has to take care of herself and Aurelia, but then there's Ryland on the outside, and his role changed because as he got older, I was able to care for him more. But what it also did was became this balancing act of trying to figure him out, trying to understand and figure out where Savannah was as well. And then you're sort of anticipating a little bit.
You're trying to divide yourself between being a dad and being a husband.
But it was the
and being yourself.
Well, yes, it was the idea of trying to anticipate, and it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. Okay, it was a lot, but it was a lot. I would say, I'm not going to use the word easier. I'm going to say it was a lot more focused because there was the self, which this part I kind of get me, but then it was you trying to figure out you during Ryland's pregnancy, but it wasn't like figuring out you and Ryland and me in the process as well,
Yes.
and so attempting to balance that out was different because again we were accelerating through different things, and trying to manage his behavior and manage his milestones, manage his sleep, and getting him essentially in the different places he needed to be while she was transforming through the pregnancy. And I'll give you the great example was at the end, your last trimester with Ryland, you, as with most women, you wanted to sleep. There was a
I
huge
did want to
desire to
sleep.
sleep.
And that was the time that our son, for the most part, was going through one of his biggest sleep regressions and staying awake.
Exactly. And so you have this overlap that's happening. And again, I'm trying to figure this out and, managing work in the process as well. But it became a juggling act. I think that was one of the biggest
And
things.
something I want to put a bit of a spotlight on, just because whether you are a mom that breastfeeds or formula feeds, or you choose to do whatever, I was breastfeeding our son, and because of my pregnancy, unfortunately, my supply dropped. It started dropping slowly but surely as I found out I was pregnant. By the time I got to 7 months postpartum, I almost practically dried up. So as a mom, again with pregnancy hormones and still recovering practically, I felt so much guilt that I could not keep breastfeeding him because my body just didn't want to produce anymore. I had other things my body was focusing on. And we did the transition formula, and he's an amazing boy. It made no difference whatsoever whether your child is breastfed or bottle fed. But from a mom's perspective, you feel like you're the sole provider for the nutrition for your child,
Mm-hmm.
and that hits hard, and you get to mourn that part of you. I don't know that your child won't ever remember that part of their life, but I understand as a mom, you go through a mourning period of forgiving yourself and understanding that it was not your fault whatsoever, and then you let it go because despite what science shows and factors out there, we use things, the knowledge that we have, to the best of our ability with our kids. And I'm telling you now, we have an incredible little boy. And even if he wasn't breastfed until a year and a half, 2 years, he's amazing. I just know because there's so many people that unfortunately talk down on formula fed babies to the moms. And that's just something that, whether you're planning to have a second or third one, wondering, but I want to breastfeed my child, I want to be able to provide nutrients to them, you're going to figure it out. When you are faced with that challenge, no matter how hard it is, you are so incredibly resilient, you figure it out.
And Ryland, I mean, in all honesty, there was a shift that had to happen with me. So
Bottle
the
feeding.
bottle feeding part.
Hmm.
And so, I became, I think, pretty good at it, but I didn't start off that way. This was a struggle for me to try to get him to be able to be comfortable in my arms. And what was interesting was watching developmentally, and this is kind of the humor of the whole thing.
Hmm.
So at one time when Ryland was very little, and he would want to stand up. I mean, for him, it was like he never stopped wanting to stand up from a very early on, which is why we actually thought he'd skip the crawling stage altogether and kind of move his way into running,
Hmm.
as opposed to even stopping along the way for that nonsense of crawling and just kind of just go for it. He actually did crawl a little bit, and yes, he is, and he's up and running at this point. But the way he bonded and connected physically against Savannah, and I say against her because it's us holding him, was was one of the transformational parts that I always remembered. At the beginning, when I held him, he was very awkward in my hands. He was very little, but in Savannah's arms and on her, it was like a perfect fit. And then as he got older, and then we decided to go down the second path, he became more into my arms because I was breastfeeding. I was
Bottle
bottle feeding
feeding. Yeah.
him to get him to go through, and I was part of his nutrition and kind of his life
It's
cycle
a
and his
different
needs.
bonding
It was
experience
a
that you
different,
never had to have before.
and I never had to have before, but he also transformed in size, right? I mean, as he started growing,
Hmm.
he began to fit more into my arms, which was actually really nice for me because then I could feel more
He's a
comfortable
tall
with him.
boy, and I'm pretty short, so he doesn't fit as well into my lap.
And so in today's world, it's really funny to watch because he's very comfortable in my arms when I put him down to sleep. But at the same time, if he's reading a book, when Savannah sits with him and he sits with her, she's like a natural chair for him, right? And he loves that. He wants to just sit in our lap as he's
Yes.
reading, but I can't provide that for him. So it's just
It
a
was nice
beautiful,
to see that shift where you could actually connect with him on a level that couldn't really happen until
he was older.
Yes.
And so we didn't expect this. This is not something anybody really talks about. But I think of that as a really beautiful joy for me as a dad to have this transformation. But I also was very cognizant of the change within Savannah in terms of how she was feeling, because she was feeling divided attention.
It's not just that as well. There's a connection.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a connection that you have with the baby when you have that physical contact of breastfeeding. Again, outside of the science of oxytocin and things like that, for me, it was solely just that connection with my son and I. But it was so much easier for me going through that transition, seeing that Omar could now take a hold on things that he never really used to do before, and actually see Ryland start not having necessarily only a preference for me, but going through the shift of
Both of us.
now he's a daddy's boy for sure, without a doubt. He says daddy, daddy, daddy all day long, looks for him, absolutely loves him. And as a parent, it's like, you know what? To have our child love mom and to love dad is what other gift could you ask for?
Yeah, but I mean, this is the message I would have to give everyone out there thinking about a family. The importance of both parents is I mean, beyond
insurmountable.
There are going to be times in their lives where Savannah is going to be the absolute paramount to them, and there are other times where I'm going to be. And I think with sons and daughters, it's also going to be different at different stages.
But if you're a
lives.
Single parent,
it's hard. It's
I can
it's
imagine.
Definitely, you're trying to fulfill a role that is really best shared with two active parents. And my hat's off to you. You have to take that journey by yourself. Yeah. We absolutely love you because you are taking on an enormous role that is oftentimes shared, but we see the incredible value of sharing it. We understood that beforehand because I mean, we obviously planned this, but to really experience it was beautiful to see, but it was also very eye-opening. I think to recognize how critical it is to have both parents at different times in their lives. Absolutely part of it.
There did come the cognitive side of our Ryland, our son now, start picking up on things a little bit more. So this is now around the age of 1 that, you know, he starts watching us more. He starts picking up on habits more.
You know that song that's out there? I've got this that somebody's watching me. It's like, yeah, well, that's true. They are watching you. They're like little sponges.
If Omar and I are really consumed in something that we're doing and we quickly take a second to stop, he's literally staring at us. Like he is studying us like a textbook.
Oh, I know.
And it's moments like that where it's like extraordinarily cute to recognize,
it is.
But scary at the same time because 9 times out of 10,
the responsibilities with us.
Exactly. 9 times out of 10, you're not truly picking up on the fact that they're watching you, and they're watching you like a hawk, and they're going to remember words, they're going to remember actions, they're going to remember how you handle the situation.
Well, they're going to remember your emotional feel.
The emotional energy tied to that. And this is where, again, leading up to the end of the pregnancy with our second, where there was times that Omar just had to be with our son because I had prodromal labor, which means I was on and off. I was in labor, but labor lasted for like a week. Right. Until I actually gave birth. So you can imagine.
Well, let's take a moment here because I think this is an important part, but we did something else on top of it all.
Yes.
We took a trip.
We did. We traveled. We will be doing a singular episode with traveling.
So we wanted to throw that in here because
I was halfway through my pregnancy.
And we made a decision to say we're going to take a trip, and we took a trip overseas.
Our son was 10 months old. I was 20 weeks pregnant.
So we were juggling this first time of how do you pull that off, right?
And not only were we traveling, but how long was that flight?
Well, it was like 11 to 12 hours.
Yes, with the 10-month-old, which I will say when they're younger, it's far easier.
So we'll cover that in a separate episode altogether. But I wanted the audience to know that we made a decision as well. It wasn't by happenstance, or it's like we planned this so far in advance. We didn't do that. We just chose to do it. But we were singular about it because we were thinking about the pregnancy when we made the decision and where Savannah was, how she was feeling, and where was Ryland at the time. and how would he be? I mean, and clearly one of the biggest things is when they have little legs and they're able to run places, it is a very different game.
Yes, the baby
than
can't go
the
anywhere.
baby can't go anywhere. So you're the transportation, you're everything. But it was an experience that I think we treasure and we will always treasure. It's
It
the
felt like we were really taking in as much of that alone time with him as we could.
and
And
that was the value of that time, and particularly for those dads out there, because if you are the one working for your household, I mean, I know you can have both parents be working as well, but you're at a moment in time where I'm missing so much of this. So from the accelerated developmental point of view of Ryland, I'm only capturing like it's almost like the cream on top of the, you know,
because you're
because
working,
I'm working
I'm home with him,
and you're home
yes.
with him, so you're able to see a lot of things that I would have loved to have seen as well, but I can only experience through Savannah sharing with me on, I mean, pretty much on a daily basis, things that are very important. So throw this thing out here, document it all. You're going to want to take pictures, take videos, treasure those moments.
Mm.
I do it a little bit differently. I sometimes have these video conversations that I leave as a message that are just basically when I see something like Ryland or, Aurelia now. I mean, even Savannah, she gets those too. But these are things that are very important in terms of you going through so much. But it's wonderful to remember those moments are what make it, right? And I loved all those moments, the ones that you could sort of see when not only was his first steps, it wasn't those are the ones you I think were very focused to, but it was the way he would eat something for the first time, or the way he would choose to look at something, or the way he would attempt like to screw the cap off of, I don't know what it was, like his food
The
or something, like
pouch,
the pouch
yes.
or something like that.
Yeah, there's so many things that it might seem as a day-to-day task, but then you realize, and this is the biggest thing we've learned with kids, they slow down time. They really do. They make you stop and really take in something as simple as mealtime or
Yeah.
playtime or reading a book, even though it's like we're flipping through the book 10 times speed, you know what I mean? But they really teach you what are the most important things in life, and that is the
Well,
simplicity of it
it's the
all.
it's the patterns that they're putting together.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I have a lot of joy in being able to find, just like Savannah does, and something that would help him grow. This is Ryland specifically, or something that would be, I'm not going to say entertaining to him, but certainly educationally engaging,
Mm-hmm.
for him. And Savannah found these wonderful toys that come every 3 to 4 months that are part of them understanding shapes and understanding how things come together, or connecting a pattern of a cover on something that's a horse underneath, but now you got the horse on top. These sorts of things were wonderful. I found my little victories in getting foam building blocks. That was really fun for me.
When you really could start actually playing with
Or I
him
could
and
start
he
playing with him,
loved it.
or realizing he likes puppets. So finding a really fun puppet, and then the engagement you get out of a puppet with him. I mean, brought back my own memories because I love puppets as well. So these are the kinds of things that you come
Learning who
to.
he is as a person, it's like, what could a parent love more than actually learning who your little human is becoming? Because as a baby, they eat, poop, cry, sleep. That's all they do. And it
It's
can
routine,
be
yeah.
a really tough cycle to be in at the newborn phase when you don't really have anything to tie to it. Yes, it's a tiny baby human you're taking care of, but then when you have a personality attached to it, it becomes easier because you love everything about them and it drives you to stay with them for an hour to 2 hours at night because they don't want to be put down, or you start learning how to handle a situation, or their preferences, their dislikes. Then parenthood becomes this almost like this badge of honor that you can
It,
really
it
start feeling like, wow, this is like the best thing that could possibly happen to me because I am like so responsible for this human.
it's a big one. It's
And
a big
it's
responsibility.
a big responsibility, but you really start feeling so honored that we get to be his parents
I
and
agree.
that he chose us.
No, I think those are the things that you will always remember. There are other areas that I can tell you just from both of our sides that are always challenging, right? I mean, I think at the beginning you think of a child, and Savannah's right. I mean, the child has basic needs, right? They need to sleep, they need to eat, they need to be cleaned, and you can do all those, and you can do them fairly mechanically. But at that point, there's also a huge connective bond, I think, particularly with moms and their children, because the infant is almost like literally glued to you, in so many ways. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things. I don't think dads get to see as much of that. I think it's an equally beautiful experience for a dad.
Mhm.
And then later on, as their personalities start coming out, you now have these other new challenges that you have to kind of deal with as well. I think my first one was watching Ryland go through teething.
That's a hard
That's a
one.
hard one. It's hard because there's not really a whole lot you can do. And if
Mm-mm.
they teeth early, there's even less you can do because, I mean, at least as they get older, there are more things available to you to help with the pain.
A lot of
Um,
confusion for the
it's a lot of
child.
confusion, and you can't talk to them. All you can do is hold
No,
them.
you can't reason with them. You can't explain
So,
to them what's going on. So you're just there holding them through
and,
it.
but there's also a reveling, I think, when he had his first two teeth come in. It was a
Celebration.
celebration. He's
He
got
had
two.
two bunny teeth for
He
the
had two for the longest
longest.
time. And then he got the two top four teeth that came in. And then he has a little
That is
smile.
so
And you can see the
cute.
smile with six teeth. And then
With the
now,
red
and
cheeks.
red cheeks, because the rest of them are going to try to come in. And they're still coming in.
Yes.
But I think that's the beautiful part about being at each stage. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
And when it came to the end of my second pregnancy, I was ready, but not ready at the same time. I was ready to not be in labor and to meet this baby, but I was not ready to say goodbye to just being us three.
Yeah, I think that was a huge part. I know you shared so much with me
Yeah.
about that. For me as a dad,
Mm-hmm.
I I think I went into logistics mode. How do
Mm-hmm.
we handle everything together? How do we
Mm-hmm.
handle a child coming, going to the hospital, making sure Savannah's there at the right
Yes.
time, getting back in here to try to take care of Ryland,
And
and
this is where we don't have family where we live. So
yeah.
we really are, this is our own village, mom and dad. So outside help is a sitter. But knowing that my birth was going to be unpredictable, we had my mom fly in from South Africa. So she was able to stay with our son.
We couldn't plan this. I mean, the timing of the trip was right around what we thought would be the timing for Aurelia.
Yes.
But we were very, very fortunate to have her here and to have her be able to help support us in a way, because the juggling act was huge. I mean, you
Yes.
have Savannah giving birth, I'm there, Ryland's here,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we're trying. We, I mean, of course, we could never plan this, but as it did happen, it happened in the evening time, and so there was
It
the ability
was
to put Ryland kind
Omar
of
and I are
down.
very set on if we can see our son to sleep, we'd love to do that. And that is with the intention that for the most part he's gonna just sleep and not really miss out in the day with us. So I had gone into labor again, it was an entire week-long fiasco, but it really started picking up as Omar was cooking dinner.
we
So
we thought we were going to have another night of like, all right,
yes,
it's
but we
just
do have the birth story up, so we won't go into too much detail.
mhm.
But as it did happen, you were eating dinner and we were able to put our son down before we went to the
And
hospital.
this was a really wonderful thing to be able to do, and
I needed that.
I think Savannah did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, one of the things that's really beautiful, and for those parents out there, there is an important magic that happens at bedtime,
Mm-hmm.
because they're trying to figure out how to sleep and go to sleep and switch into a dreaming mode where they grow so much, right? I mean, the nighttime sleep is so critical for them.
It's not just sleep.
It's not
There's
just sleep.
so much that
It's so much
happens.
that happens during this resorting of thousands and thousands of things they did during the day
Everything they
and
yes.
processed during the daytime. And their safety in their mental and emotional state is going to sleep. And so for us to be present for that gives them the safety to go into their dreams.
But it's also that look they give you when you say, I love you, you hug them, you kiss them. And there's this recognition of, I see that you're here with me and I love you for that. And I was in so much pain. So, you know what? That was my last time I was with my son, where it was just him. As still my baby. He was still only 14 months old. So it was, the timing was so perfect. And however it works out for anyone else, I would tell you, just enjoy that last moment you have with your kid. It's not like it's going, if you don't have that last moment, it's end all be all. But for me, that moment was so important. And that was very much what I held on to, knowing that, next time I'm going to see you, there's going to be two of you that, we're going to be taken care of. And that leads us to, him becoming a big brother officially at 14 months
I'd say,
old.
yeah.
He just started walking 2 weeks before she was born.
That was a novel concept. So of course he's not quite getting this, although we had lots of fun with it. We got some fun pictures of him with his new big brother thing, and it was really fun to use some of those earlier because we sprung it onto family. It's like, do they really notice that big brother?
Yes, hint, hint. That's how they found out.
Yeah, so
he has a 2-year-old sweater on him at
yeah,
5 months old.
Yeah, he's trying to fit into this thing, and it says Big Brother. Yeah. And he still wears that today. So I mean,
it still fits in.
It still fits in. But that was huge. I loved every moment of that, and sharing it with you was absolutely beautiful.
I wouldn't want to go through it with anyone else.
Yeah.
And then the biggest adjustment came.
Oh, yes.
I've heard so many people talk about, what's the hardest part? Is it going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2? And I will tell you, I have 2 parts to that answer.
Okay.
0 to 1 was probably the biggest physical and emotional challenge for me. So both of them, because Omar and I don't know each other outside of taking care of a child. I don't know, how he's learning to be a dad. I don't know how I'm learning to be a mom, so we're both trying to figure out this new role we're supposed to be filling. And then, we're starting to come to each other to see, how do you want to do things? How do I want to do things? And that could look so different, and that could bring up, lots of emotions and discussions.
And then there's times too. So when you throw the second child in the mix, then the dynamic is very different
For
as well.
me, I would say the hardest was 0 to 1. But the second time hardest was definitely 1 to 2 in that first month of having to figure out, how do I balance out taking care of 2 kids when their needs are both present at the same time.
I'll throw this in there too, because it wasn't just that. It was you recovering. So you were balancing out your own recovery.
Honestly, I didn't think much about recovery the second time around, just because they keep me on my toes so much. But this is outside of my identity and my recovery as a mom. My biggest challenge was, I had so much anxiety around, what on earth am I going to do when she's hungry? She's breastfeeding. I need to feed her. But Ryland's hungry, or Ryland's grumpy. Ryland's having a tantrum. Now, how do I juggle these two? And Omar was home the first 2 weeks. She was a baby. After that, I was on my own. So I learned very abruptly, what was I going to do, when I had them each on a completely different schedule, him wanting my attention, but her needing my attention too. And you start realizing, that saying that, women can multitask, or moms can multitask. You start learning what survival mode really is. Because at that point, my focus is not necessarily fueling myself. And I'm referring to the first month, because the first month for me was survival mode. Emotionally, I was a wreck, because I wanted to make sure I could see to our son waking up at night, because he was still waking up at night. I wanted to be with him while he was awake, but I needed to be with the newborn at the same time. So I was really fighting an emotional and physical battle of, I want to be torn into different people so that I can see to him and I can see to her.
Yeah.
But I had to realize I couldn't do it.
And this was a hard one for Savannah. So just to put context, it's not as if I wasn't there for particularly for Ryland because I could handle
Of course.
everything with him. But it's an emotional feeling that she went through with just essentially becoming a mom of two. And so the emotional need, and this is me trying to read into her a little bit as well, there were times that she was beyond exhausted because she was trying to balance both out. And yes, I could have responded back to Ryland and during his sleep regression, some of that time that we did have right around the same amount when she was born. But she needed to do it. It wasn't that I wasn't going to be grateful for getting a few more minutes of sleep. It wasn't that. It was more a matter of that she needed to be there for her sake as a mom.
Yes, there was a time where I was very grateful and still am to Omar for recognizing, yes, I am so tired. I have like no fuel left in my tank. But to fill my tank, I need to be able to have that time with my son. So when he was going through sleep regressions, again, a newborn wakes up every hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on your newborn. And there would be times that I just put her down from eating and he would wake up and I'd tell him I'm going to him. And that time for me at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, as crazy as what it sounds, I'm sure a mom could understand that recharged me more than sleep would have. Because there's such little time blocks in the day that I can have with him, whether it's playtime or just where he's peaceful, really, where you can feel him resting on your chest and that feeling his energy go into this calm. And I wanted to be present for that. So there was a time where our relationship and our understanding for each other had to change. And honestly, Omar took it very gracefully. I was not very graceful during that transition. I was everywhere. And for you to have a partner that turns around, even though they might not fully understand it at the time, they might not agree with you, they might not want to do it, but the fact that they do it anyway to see because you need it that much means the world. Because at that time, because there's going to be phases in life where our relationship takes a back burner.
Yeah, as parents, that happens.
And he allowed me to be able to be a mom first at that time that I really needed to be.
Well, it also gave me new opportunities for those of you who love taking care of your significant other. It was me looking for new opportunities to see if I could take care of her because she was so focused forward, which I fully, completely support. And that's really the kids, but she needed to have her backstop. And I was very proud to be that. So I would find ways to do it any which way I can, whether it was trying to take care of him at night or, I'd get home from work and shift gears to being a dad. But it was also making sure there was time over the weekends that she could at least try to get a break. We would be hunting for, getting some additional help because we needed it. We didn't have family. But it came down to how many more scones does she want to have? So I would bake scones. I'd make other goodies. The acts of service is where I would spend most of my time, I think, trying to find ways to allow her to have some time for her. However, she didn't want to take it very often. So even though she would very gratefully and gleefully eat a scone or other things that I would make, so dinners, but to take on some of the responsibilities, she went through, I would say, more than 1 month of you trying to balance out.
No, the hardest month was month 1. After that, it was still hard.
You're still balancing
but I feel like the hardest part was over.
I think I would agree with you almost. I really do think that the first 6 weeks to 8 weeks were, I think it progressively, got to a better balancing point. But I don't think, in my mind, looking at you and watching you,
I'm saying month 1 for me to see to their needs by myself.
Yes.
So when you were home the first 2 weeks of our second born's life, I had the other 2.5 weeks where I was kind of at a very hard place of figuring that out.
Yeah.
I mean, that bled into, several more weeks after that.
Sure.
The sweet spot where I feel like, hey, we got this in hand, was at like 2.5, 3 months, where we were at that point putting our daughter down at night to get a 2, 3 hours stretch of sleep, but we could eat dinner by ourselves with both kids being down. With our son, and this is where if you're thinking about having another one and you're only on one, you are so much more fixated and attached to your first child that you want to keep them with you like as much as possible, and you hold off on the routine, right? So we didn't put our son to a fixed bedtime routine until months and months and months later.
And it's still very important for them. I think this is us
They
learning as parents.
thrive on routine.
So for those of you out there that don't establish that, it is a sense of comfort for children. I mean, we learned that maybe a little bit, I don't know what call it the hard way, but we did have to sort of relearn.
And you go with their pace
Yes.
of what they would need. You don't force anything. It really comes gradually, as we noticed it with her. I think we were a little bit blind to it with Ryland,
Oh, we were,
because
yeah,
I was
totally.
like, nobody's sleeping on my chest right now. I wanted
It's
to
the
stay
same
with
thing.
me.
Yeah, it's not.
So no.
It's not. It's not that that value wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
but we're looking obviously to set up some good habits for him in the future,
Yes.
so that he can recharge when he feels that he needs to, and that predictability gives them a structure that's safe. And I think that's the most important part. Is we allowed, I think, our emotional desire to give them as much as possible, and particularly in love, that we took away some of that. And I think over a period of time, we began to learn to be better parents. I mean, effectively understand more about how they're developing.
There was an independence part, and again, we're not feeding into this. My child has to be independent at 6 months old. We don't believe in any of that nonsense. I'm talking about the independence in the sense of he can sleep in his crib for a few hours happily without, we don't do the cry it out method. We've made a few comments in the past where we were trying to figure out sleep regressions, and we did mention, having to try different methods of sleep training, and we firmly believe we don't do necessarily a sleep training. If our kids are crying and they show signs of they need to be with us, they are with us. We don't leave them alone to try figure it out, because their regulatory system in their body is not developed until
You as a parent are the regulatory system.
And this is why if you have a look at a child that is in absolute distress and you pick them up, and I will say this because I love my mom dearly, but there are people that believe that the child knows you're going to pick them up if they cry, right? It's wrong. It's bull. They don't understand.
Whoa! Where did this go to? Just like
I'm very passionate about
She's
this.
very passionate, and I think she should be.
There is no fooling you. There's no trickery involved. That 2 month old, that
By the
1
way,
week old. I mean, you name it.
Save that for when they're a little bit older. They'll figure that part out.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it as an
No,
infant. I can tell you that for sure.
2, 3 years old. It's still at that point. You are still very much feeding into being the regulatory system. And if you're calm, they start calming down. If you worked up, that baby's not going to calm down. And this is, again, the science behind this is amazing. And I will link a video in the description of the psychology behind your baby's sleep. And they say baby, but it's behind your child's sleep, still at 21 months old, still at 2 years old. I mean, you keep going and you start realizing this culture, American culture per se, about why does my child sleep through the night right now? Or they need to start sleep training at 6 months old. Do the FOBA method. Let them cry it out. It's like, I want to speak against that entirely, because that has taught us that our little ones are supposed to be independent in regulating a system that they don't even have.
No. And I think this is very important for parents to know. You're going to hear a lot of professional opinions, and they do have value. However, you as a parent have to decide what is the best choice for your little ones.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen multiple techniques that we're interested in. I mean,
Tried,
we've
thought
tried, some
about.
didn't work. When we've talked to our pediatrician, she's had some really good ideas too. We've all looked at these things, but I think it's like turning around saying, well, there are 4 food groups. That's based off of something from the 1950s. When we look at that today and realize nutrition isn't that, and never has
Mm.
been. And then there's other people that will come through and say, do your nutrition in a completely different way. The whole idea is there's a unique experience that you're going to have with your child. And being able to understand, I think, where they are developmentally
Mm.
in time is something you have the capacity as a parent to know.
Yes, let your child take the lead.
Let your child take the lead.
And you follow them.
And when you recognize the cues on how they speak to you, then
All their signs
the
without
signs,
necessarily
because
talking.
when I say speak, I mean, I don't mean it literally.
Yes,
I
language,
I
body
mean
language.
their body language. I mean, if for those of you out there, we realize that verbal communication is very important too, and
It
eventually
helps.
that will make a big difference in communicating with your child.
Right now,
But
our son can understand words, but he's not necessarily speaking sentences
right.
either.
But the reality is, you as a parent, with the ability that you have, that's I mean, and I'll say this to all parents, this is built into you. You don't have to go and do something special. You are able to be in tune to your child. And
You know when they're
that
unhappy.
connection
Mm-hmm.
is the key clue for you. If you find that your child needs, in that particular instance, or even in that particular phase in their life, more affection to feel safe, because that's where they start growing and learning, then do that. Be that.
It's tied to their nervous system. So when you have a baby that is learning life outside the womb, which is a completely scary place, their nervous system has no way to regulate. So them crying is their only instinctual survival response to I'm hungry. I need you. I'm alone. I'm cold. I mean, you name these things. That is the only thing they know how to do. And over time that will change into moaning, groaning. It will change in so many different ways. But that leads into emotional security. Now, if you're a parent that has, like us, gone up and down with what on earth to do, you will start realizing that by inserting yourself as being able to be their nervous system for them when they can't do it themselves, you will start seeing your child be so much more emotionally safe, being able to soothe in a way that they probably never would have done unless you assured them that you were there. You gave them no reason to feel unsafe at all. Or if you're switching patterns now and you're only starting to do it now and your child's older, that's fine because we're doing that. I mean, we've tried so many different things. There's a brain switch that your child has of, I know mommy and daddy is always there for me. So therefore, right now, I know I'm not in danger. I can sit, our son sits in his crib for 20, 30 minutes in the morning, looking at things around his room, being so happy because he now understands that should he cry out for us, we are there in a split second without
Yeah.
hesitation, because he knows that should he show a red flag of, I need you, there's not going to be a question about whether you're going to come or not because of emotional security.
And that's a beautiful trust and bond that you develop at a very early age.
Mm.
I would have to say your first month with Aurelia, even with Ryland, that bond and that trust was the foundation was set for it. And
It
it's a
sets the stage for
foundation, and it sets
everything.
the stage for everything. So even though the first month could be more routine, in other words, their needs are very basic, but the bonding and the foundation for that trust is there. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. I wouldn't want to trade that ever. And I loved seeing it with you and Aurelia, and I loved seeing it with you and Ryland. I mean, I
Mm.
was envious too. Don't get me wrong, because it was right there.
Mm.
Later on, it came more with me as he got older, and I was able to have more of that connection as a dad. But I mean, for those dads out there, never give up on that stage. I mean, Your spouse is the one who is taking so much on, but that responsibility and that joy sets that foundation for you as parents and for you as a family. And I would never want to trade it. It's just too precious.
And something that I think is so important for every parent to give other parents and yourself is the grace of figuring it out as you go. Because we messed up like over and over again with our son sleeping and
We
trying
were
to
trying to
learn.
figure it out. I mean,
We were trying to
so
figure it out. How
it's
else are you going to know unless you do it?
and there's no, I mean, it
There's
doesn't
no
come with
right
an
answer.
instruction manual, right?
No.
So Ryland's instruction manual is as follows. Do the
Yeah.
following things. We don't have that. So, and I don't think any of us do. So I do think we want to touch on one thing before we switch out to some of our questions.
Yes.
So let's touch upon how Ryland was when he first saw Aurelia.
He did not blink twice. So initially, when he met her, I mean, he had just learned how to walk 2 weeks before. So his biggest interest was that hospital room.
Oh yeah, exploring everything.
He wanted to
Cords,
touch the bed. He
the
wanted to touch
cords.
the buttons. He wanted to get underneath the bed. I mean, you name it. I still remember having my first meal after giving birth.
Mm-hmm.
He was all over the place. You know, only one person in that room could eat at a time because one had to see to the baby, one
Yeah,
had to
and
see
see
to
it.
the walking baby
Yeah, exactly.
for the one to eat.
Yes.
So it was so hilarious. But Ryland, it was funny. Being 14 months old, you're so stimulated by everything around you that the processing is so minimal because you're only taking in so much so fast.
Right.
And initially there was a, oh, baby, and okay, that's nice. I'm going to continue. And his realization really only came like 2 weeks after she was with us. He didn't
Well,
like the loud crying. That was a strange thing for him.
well, I think part of it was he was in home setting versus hospital
Yes,
setting,
like,
right? So that made
what
a
is
big
this
difference.
human doing in my
We have
safe
another
space?
human, yes.
And I will say, if you're trying to figure out a way to introduce your firstborn to your secondborn, or if you have multiples, I highly recommend if your baby is seeing you for the first time after you've given birth, have your newborn child in the bassinet or in the little cubicle when you greet your baby, your firstborn. So I do firmly believe that there's an understanding that if our son walked into the room and I was holding this newborn baby, he hasn't seen me for
2
hours
days.
and out. No, it wasn't. He saw me
Well,
the following morning, but
he
12,
did, but
18
I mean, back
hours.
home, you still had an
No, this
overnight
is now
stay.
the initial introduction that I'm
Yes.
talking about. That allow your arms to be free to greet them and love on them and take in that moment and then bring the baby into the situation and do an introduction. But 2 weeks into her being with us, he really started noticing she's not going anywhere. She's kind of sticky around.
Okay. So, but let's predicate this a little bit.
Yes.
So I would say, and again, we can't speak from this from firsthand experience, although we might in the future. The whole idea is Ryland is at a communication level that's very different, right? So at 14 months, and then Aurelia now pops in. I think it would be a different experience if Ryland were like 3 years old and he's able to verbalize
Definitely.
things. So we would have to approach it differently. So what Savannah is suggesting really comes down to the circumstances, that closeness in age.
Yes, of course.
So,
It's because there's no way to explain to him, oh, this is your little sister.
now, I will say this though. Ryland has an affinity to really be connected to people. That's just his personality.
Little people.
Little people. And the one thing that we did notice, which always made us laugh, was it was like he had a radar. The
When
minute
we were
that
in public spaces.
in public spaces, the minute there would be another little person, he would be like
It's
hyper
like ding, ding,
focused.
ding, 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 ding,
It was almost
ding.
like my
Yes.
little radar went to that person, and they would do it the same too. So I think it's something instinctual with babies
Yes.
that they really see each other and see each other as connected little people, which is really actually very beautiful.
So, taking into consideration now our circumstance, following up to his adjustment to her being present came gradually.
It did.
He started warming up to her, and this is where Omar and I had to very intentionally not push it. Because if we tried pushing our daughter onto Ryland saying hello or Ryland holding her, there would be a resentment or a bit of a pushback from him, and then that would push him even further away. So we understood that he was going to eventually warm up and come and say hi or give her a kiss or give her a hug, but we always gave him the opportunity. We would always say, you're more than welcome to come and sit and say hi. We're using cues again at the time. He doesn't fully understand what we're talking about. And this opened up a door of him initiating, wanting to give her hugs.
Well, you're bringing up something that's very, very important. At his age, that initiation is a huge part of him growing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes now he likes using the word no a lot, so he's beginning to learn that. But the whole idea about wanting to do something, he needs the ability to initiate. This develops his independence. And we did recognize that very early on as he was growing, that initiation was very important. And this was another piece of it.
And I started noticing if I was changing her diaper, he would want to observe. And this came like after the 2 weeks. So the first 2 weeks, she was like null and void to him. She was the thing that made a sound, and that was it, and took up time. And then, which yes. I completely understand. Yes. His poor brain is trying to figure this out. So I started changing diapers, or I started breastfeeding her, or she would start looking around. And then he started kind of being like, she's a full functioning thing. She's not like a toy laying around. And then he started like wanting to put a toy next to her, or checking her. He's playing with her toes was his favorite thing to do for the longest time. They were so tiny. She'd move them around like little fingers, and he loved that. And to be able to, as a parent, I know you're trying to think of obviously protecting the smallest baby from the bigger baby, being gentle, but be careful with that, because that might come across as like you're taking the baby away from them. So we did start teaching him to be gentle before she was born, and this was something we very intentionally did.
We intentionally did it, but
he understood the word gentle by the time she was born.
It was not intentional for Aurelia. It was intentional for
just
him.
Just in general.
For him to grow.
With knowing there was going to be a newborn in place, and it was more so even a reason, that we wanted to make sure that he understood it. But in the case of, he had to be gentle to begin with by himself, that when he started interacting more with her, Omar and I would look at each other, and that's so fulfilling, because when they're not interacting and you're really in the very hard stages of 2 little ones, it can feel so overwhelming. But then you start seeing that she wakes up from a nap and he wants to run to her and give her a kiss. Yeah. And that is where you look at each other, it's like, this is so worth it. Can you imagine what they're going to be like a month from now, 2 months from now, a year from now? And
we are predicting, and we are laughing a little bit, because
yes.
I think
you have to have fun with it.
We have to have some fun with it.
And so again, that transition happened at his pace. And we would always give him an option to be present with whatever was happening. Now he throws her dirty diapers away in the trash. And now he wants to share with her, but then sometimes he doesn't want to share with her. And now we're starting to learn, how to navigate being nice or being kind, or, you can't just grab things. And these are things that you have to intentionally think about both kids without saying, no, you can't take that from your sister. You need to understand that you're not taking it away from your older child, but rather trying to teach them to be present in the moment with the younger one and how to handle a situation. And over time, I think it will gel. But right now, that is like the transition phase that we're in now with them. So do we want to alternate questions?
Yes.
Okay.
I like that idea.
My one of 3 questions personally to you is, as a partner and a dad, how was it to watch me give birth to our second child and be a mom to 2? Oh. I know we've touched on the transition of now being responsible for 2, but personally, as a completely you and as a dad?
Um,
Watching your partner you've known for several years
yes.
do
Uh,
such a big switch.
there's so many parts to this, right? I mean, so for me, there's no experience that you can actually compare to in watching your child be born, right? The way they look, the way they feel, the way they just sort of show up, and I mean, they're beautiful and they're tiny and they're vulnerable. I mean, we've taken obviously some wonderful pictures, and it's really great to look back on, say, Ryland, or we can look at Aurelia as well, how small they were, and
Mm.
how much of a miracle. I mean, there's just that's the only word I could use. Just an absolute miracle. Um, I think with Ryland, my entire focus was his birth, because it was just the three of us, right? And him coming into this world. With Aurelia, um, it was a bit different, because I think there was this bouncing in my head of taking care of you, taking care of Aurelia
We
coming.
still have a little one back home.
Yeah, and you still have a little one back home that still, essentially was still asleep at the time that I was planning on being there. And then, of course, I mean, I'm equally sleep deprived. So, as much as Savannah's going through labor, I will guarantee you hospitals do not take into account how to make a dad feel able to have even a comfortable chair to sit in
At least
over
our
there.
hospital,
The
yeah.
hospital that we went to, I mean, maybe there's some really great ones out there. It's not that the staff wasn't great, they were fantastic, but
Hmm.
it's just not set up that way. So you're already experiencing really being tired, and you're on adrenaline as well, just for a different reason. But Aurelia was, I mean, absolutely beautiful. And I don't know if it was because she's a girl, and, I'm a dad now of a girl on
Hmm.
top of it, dad of a son. I mean, it's like you get these two different kinds of feelings, I think, with both of them. But she was the most beautiful little creature.
Hmm.
And she popped in there, and we were looking at her, and just trying to make sure she was taken care of. The difference is you have an understanding of the experience from the first time. That's different.
But that's how you felt in the moment, but how did it feel for you looking at me as a partner, now being a mom to two? Your
There
feeling of looking at me.
there is a certain beauty that I cannot describe
Mm.
of a mom transformation. Um, there's a huge romance piece that comes in prior to being parents. And then there's a huge other depth that you would never thought possible watching, I mean, the miracle being born through you. Because, I mean, it's clearly my role is very different in it, um, but it was just even more, I don't know how much more I could love you. I mean,
Yeah, our
it's
souls. I do feel
you're,
the same way that there's a soul bonding, and this is why Omar and I like him and I to be present alone with our births. That is such an intimate experience for you to share
I
with someone.
the only people that needed to be there were the people who needed to take care of us,
Yes.
and particularly
So
you. So that
that
was
it's
it.
a very, very soul connecting experience to welcome your babies into the world with your significant other.
But
And
there's
that's
a magic to Savannah's transformation. I mean, that her capacity to be a beautiful mom just multiplied. And you could see so much more of it. Um, there's it's so hard to put it into words. I mean, I'm not going to say you had to be there, because it's not that, but
mhm,
you can't really explain that experience unless I think you go through it.
mm,
And I think seeing Ryland born, seeing Ryland against Savannah was, I mean, beyond beautiful. But seeing it happen a second time, this time with Aurelia, and Aurelia had a little more of a complicated birth than Ryland did, just a small bit.
mhm.
And once she was, with those cute little fingers that were very long fingers and long toes, that she was right there on Aurelia's chest. I mean, on Savannah's chest, just together with that
So
bonding.
much relief in
It's
that
that
moment. Yeah.
the golden hour that I think we've talked about.
Hmm.
Um, just the capacity to love them both and to love Savannah more. Just didn't realize I could find more, but there was more. So it came.
Falling in love with you over and over is amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
becoming parents and becoming parents second time, third time, there is a new love you grow for your partner, and the marriage changes every time.
And it
It's
does. Yeah.
constantly evolving. Sorry, that was a longer question, but you can
That,
ask me your question.
Yes, that was a longer question. I have a interesting, but maybe a little more humorous
Okay.
version of this for my question for you. So when Ryland was born and he was in your arms and he was the most beautiful little guy and you were holding him, you almost immediately came back with, shouldn't we have another?
Yeah.
So, I know that's the mom talking after the. Now, you actually went through a little bit of the same thing when Aurelia was born.
Yes.
So
I could do this 10 times.
Yeah, I could do this. That's what I want you to talk about. Talk about that feeling.
There is something about, oh my gosh, I was just capable of giving birth, but not only was I capable of giving birth, you have just brought into the world this human being that you love wholeheartedly without even knowing them. And that feeling of holding them, meeting them, hearing them, smelling them for the first time is such a euphoric feeling that let me do it again, and then let me do it again after that, because I want to do it 5 times more after that too. Because there really is, and I'm grateful that I've had very good births, that it makes you realistically, without thinking of the logistics of really the reality
of having more children. Yes.
There's the falling in love that just never gets old. The meeting them and just studying their face for the first time is moments I'll have ingrained and memories I'll have ingrained in my mind forever. But it's the falling in love. I think it's no different to having butterflies and falling in love with you or your first love. Or, I mean, these are things that you just don't forget, especially if you have a wonderful love story, which we do. Hint, 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 this is one we'll be covering in the future. But it's there's a different love to falling in love with your offspring of our joint love being the result of being this amazing little human being. This is why I could do it again and again.
So it was a bit humorous because I kind of knew the answer a little bit, but it is a beautiful euphoric feeling, and I'm glad you're able to share it.
So what is the funniest moment you've had while being with both of the kids? Have you had a funny moment where you've had both the kids with you?
I think one of the things that I will always remember is, and it is funny because it's watching their developmental reaction, right, between each other.
Yeah.
And so we have obviously a lot of interaction between them.
Yes.
And this is just the beginning. But so one of the things that Savannah has gifted our children is a very expressive face. So Ryland has very expressive face, and he's very expressive in terms of where he's feeling at any one moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, so Aurelia is now very fascinated by her brother, and so she's learning from him. She's basically, he is her little human.
Mm-hmm.
Ryland has other little humans he looks at, but obviously he's got a sister too, but for him, the view of the world is a bit different. But I will always laugh at the reaction that
when she reaches out to him.
When she reaches out to him. So this was an instance where they were both on our bed. And so Aurelia now is somewhat sitting up, right? So she's kind of getting that core strength. And she now reaches with her hands and she wants to grab stuff. I mean, this is part of the age. And he was sitting on the bed kind of with a book in front of him. And her hand just went over to grab his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he looked over and he had this look like, what are you doing? And what you're disturbing my reading right now. And it was this moment where he couldn't mask this feeling like, hey,
what do you think you're doing?
What do you think you're doing?
Excuse me. And you can just internalize their voices.
And I can just do a cartoon voice for them. So I would laugh at that because I can just imagine her, because she's so talkative, that as she gets older, she is going to be following him around
Mm-hmm.
and talking to him all the
And
time.
he's
And he's going
just
to get to a point where it's like,
just leave
oh,
me alone.
and this is like the future selves of them, I think,
Yes,
as they're
it's
going
very
through this.
cute.
So for me, that was a very cute moment because it was just sort of watching their interaction as brother and sister.
They're very funny. It's funny when that happens.
Yeah. Okay. So this one is a bit more about just you this time.
Okay.
So right now, you've been mom.
Mm-hmm.
You've been mom again.
Yes.
But now we're focusing on what is the journey to become you, back to you. And so
Oh,
I would like you to speak a little bit about this transformation that you're taking on for yourself to basically be you as one again.
it is a very big shift because my identity has been mom right now, and very happily, but there is a self that I need to rediscover 2 times over now. And it's a very humbling experience just because I need to understand that as much as I love being a mom can't be all that I am. So I need to learn again. My personality's changed. You know, my habits have changed. You know, physically as well. That's a completely different journey that I'm going on. Is accepting who I am, the amazing things my body has done, and I'm doing a wonderful challenge, which is like a 6 week challenge for myself, of which is helping me in a lot of ways, physically and mentally, whether it's workouts and things like that. But learning who I am again through jointly being a mother and a wife, and finding out, you know, what is my passion as an individual. And it's
So,
something that I'm seeing through little glimmers of what's my book preference right now. My book preference right now changed from what my book preference would have been
yeah.
before having kids. I mean, it's tiny little things like this, or little habits I'm now having. These are little increments or little crumbs of what I'm finding who I am, rather than, you know, being a carer of kids and being a wife to you. And that is an ongoing journey. I'm almost 7 months postpartum, so I can't give you a full breakdown.
I
But
think
it's a
we
journey that I am so excited to be on and embrace before we grow our family again. And it's like I have a set of challenges I've set for myself, you know, whether it's runs or 5Ks, or I'd like to lead up to a half marathon, maybe marathon. You know, these are things in the works. But it's an exciting time. It's also daunting at the same time. But I think I finally reached the hurdle of more excited than nervous to see where it goes.
well, I'm glad that you're embracing that because, I mean, honestly, you need to find you again too.
I do.
And so for me and for those dads that are out there, when you support your spouse to restoring, who she is and who she's becoming, because it's an evolution for all of us, I think that's an important part of it really being a wonderful part of the journey.
I do appreciate you being patient. So, okay. So, my last personal question to you is, what is your favorite part of being a dad?
Oh, wow. Oh gosh, there is not one thing. I mean, I don't think I could come back and say it's this thing. Uh, I I find there's a joy in understanding Ryland. There's a joy in watching Aurelia, sort of look around and figure things out. Listening to her talk. Ryland has his definite growth in his personality. I guess if I had to really sum it up, it's being part of their journey and being
Hmm.
able to watch them become everything that they were meant to be in their journey. And it's an honor to be part of that. We're with Savannah and my faith and how we look at our spiritualism. We know that we are a soul family with our little ones.
Yes.
And what does that mean? It means that they have a journey through their life here that's intended uniquely for them. But we also share a soul family, which means we will be always together.
We
And
do firmly believe that with becoming pregnant with them, they chose us to be their parents.
Yes, and with that there comes this. I always kind of laugh a little bit. It's the almost the Spider-Man saying, with with great power comes great responsibility. And so we do have this enormous influence that makes a difference in their lives. And I am thrilled to be able to tap onto the wisdom that I've experienced through life and be able to help them find and build off of that for their journey. So I don't think there's one thing, but if I had to pick something, it would probably be thank you for including me in your journey.
That's very sweet.
So my last question for you is a bit more about humor.
Yes.
So you have had this transformation all the way through pregnancy twice with your little taste buds. Where are you today? How do you think you have transformed your little taste buds from the beginning when you've had, I don't think I would say cravings, but you certainly had certain things you wanted specifically.
Yeah,
And then,
certain
and then,
hand
and then
cravings and
how are
things.
you today in those little cravings?
Well, you know what? I now use an excuse for craving all the time because who needs to be pregnant to have a craving? I'm more sophisticated, I think, since meeting Omar. My preferences have definitely been more refined. And I do tend to keep going back to my same old sushi. We just had it like a couple days ago. It was amazing. But I do feel like my palate, not only is my palate more refined to just being more selective with good quality food, I find that I'm really picking apart food more so now because
Yes, you
we're
are.
feeding our
Oh,
kids.
yeah. No, that's true.
So I'm more worried about additives or preservatives, or is it organic? Is it not organic? You know, the things we're putting in our bodies. So I think I'm more intentional now. And I make the comment to Omar, and I don't know if he picks up on it when I do, and we have something and it's really not good or it's marginal. I'll stop eating it right away because I'll tell him it's not worth the calories. I want to eat something. If I am looking at my calories, which I don't count my calories, guys, it's a waste of time. It's good for marginal maintenance to see what things are valued at. But if it's not good enough, I'm not going to eat it.
Now, just in all fairness to Savannah, she still does have cravings,
I do.
and she communicates them oftentimes through
Through
Ryland.
our kids,
And
why
so,
not?
so Ryland wants, and usually that's a code word for I
He'll
want.
have a note and he'll leave a note somewhere, or he'll hand his dad something. Or yes, our kids are the messengers.
Yes, and so
Take
that it,
advantage of that
and that
in a
still
very good
does
way.
happen. So I think her cravings will continue.
So now it's our questions for other
Yeah.
parents.
Okay. Let's do it.
So, what advice would you give to a first time dad being in the complete thick of the newborn stage? What would you tell them?
Gosh, there's so much you could say to the
If you
first
could keep
time.
it brief, though.
No, I know, and I would say appreciate the miracle of the moment. Don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Mm.
I,
Internalize it.
I, not so much the internalizing part. I think men oftentimes tend to focus a lot on environmental things. You might be planning something, you might be thinking the logistics of something. Don't lose track of being in the emotion of the moment.
It
Um,
goes by very
it
quick.
goes by very quickly.
Yes.
Appreciate the newborn stage, and there are others that will follow after that as being a father. And don't ever give up and trade that part for something that you might be planning for the future. There'll be plenty of time for that.
You're only gonna be so small
You're
for so
you're
long.
only going to be able to experience them in that moment during that time, and the miracle of everything from them looking at you to holding on to you to gripping you to the touch of their skin to their scent. I mean, all these things are an extraordinary part of connecting. And if you think about the logistics too far ahead and plan too far ahead, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
you're going to miss this, and don't miss it. It's so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So I have one that's a little more practical for you.
Okay.
What advice would you give to moms who I would say just generally are the ones who are the caregivers for the kids? in the sense that you're taking more of it than I think
Taking the brunt of taking
taking
care
the
of the
brunt of it.
kids.
That when you've got to do something. So I'll pick something because I think it's important as an example, but this is where the advice comes in. You're going to go to the grocery store or you're going to run an errand, whatever it might be. And now you've got to balance out two.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to in terms of trying to figure out how you handle like two to go to the grocery store, two to run down for an errand or a medical appointment or whatever it would be? How do you manage that in your mind that you could give advice to a brand new mom of two?
Don't overthink it. Because if you overthink it, you actually make it harder than what it really is. And the first few times I did go out with the kids, I internalized it. I thought about who am I going to put in the car first? Who am I going to take out the car first? So these are the things you think about, because you are responsible for two, but you are one. So for me, really, I got to the point after the first two, three, four times of doing it by myself. I realized why think the logistics of it, because you make it more stressful than what it needs to be.
Okay.
So start small. Do a run to the grocery store to get a carton of milk. Get just something, and it doesn't have to be far. Go down the street and feel what's the most comfortable for you. Who do you take out first? I put our newborn in a carrier because she wants to be close. So then I put her in first, and then I take him out, and I put him in back in the car, and then I put her back in the car. So these are things. The sooner you just do it, you'll find your rhythm. It
That's important. That's a
it
good one to
really
remember.
is, because it is so easy, freshly postpartum, even recovery, hormones, everything's so overwhelming. You don't learn faster than simply doing it. And that is like, please just do it. And you're going to find it's like, why did I stress about this in the first place? I'm so good at it now, because you are that much more capable than what you actually think you are. So, yes, fellow moms, just,
I think that is a great piece of advice
mm-hmm.
because I think we can get into our own heads and try to
Yes, you can.
figure things out a little more stringently.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the only thing I would add to that is you've developed a very good routine, with them, and I think those routines really help.
Yes, routines are everything. I have the kids on the same nap schedule right now, and they've been on the same nap schedule outside of the fact that a newborn sleeps more. So take into account when I talk about nap schedule, it's the biggest nap of the day, which is the one nap our son takes, is having them on the same schedule to give yourself a little bit of a break. Do it, because it's hard to establish it, but so worth it, and everyone thrives off of it in the end of the day.
And I think from a dad's point of view, I would have to echo that the routine of going through the simple things.
Because you know what to expect.
You know what to expect, but it also helps you get a muscle memory to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
This was
this was a lot
fine.
of fun.
It was much longer than what we anticipated, but
So
you know
we
what? This
we
is.
we appreciate you staying with us and listening, and hopefully we've been able to share a few things that might be valuable to you and in your thoughts and maybe support for you if you're a parent already. And if
It's
you're
an
thinking about
incredible
it,
stage to be in.
yeah,
And you know what? It can feel overwhelming right now. You could be debating on whether or not you want a second one, or you want to do the transition. What does a transition look like? So we're really hoping, again, this is our individual experience. Everyone's going to be different. But talking about this actually brought up so many wonderful feelings and thoughts
I
about
know.
things that we haven't spoken about in a long time. But we hope, first and foremost, it was helpful to anyone, even if it's a singular person. This is always fun for us to share more of our experiences with you, share life with you, because we are all still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And if you would like more of this content,
Yes.
please subscribe and like this episode in the channel. We're happy to have more, and then do share your experiences too. So we appreciate
We'd
your
love to
time,
hear it.
and
Until
thanks
next
again.
time.
Until next time.
Bye.